Like a green shirt.
Hello and welcome to today is Monday, April 14th. Yikes, Batman. The meeting we are all here together here today for is the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting. I'm a little out of practice. Sorry. First on the agenda, we have the approval of the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting minutes from March 10th, as prepared by Lori. Thank you, Lori. I had no concerns. They look good.
Me neither.
So we approve of those. Item 2 is with Sarah Decker, the disbursement report for March 2025. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. All right, so looking at month ending March 31st, 2025, total expenditures were $2,645,602.22. The largest expenditure is payroll, which was $1,282,672. And I only have two payments to point out. The first one is our second payment towards our annual ICRIMP insurance, and that was $253,766. And then we made our retainage payment for our A Street reconstruction project. That was our 24 project for $58,482.23.
I have two questions, and they might be bill questions. Okay. I'm not sure I know what retainage is in this context, because can you explain to me what the retainage clause means in this case?
Remind me, I was looking at something here.
You're so good.
What
A Street reconstruction. And
so that would have been the project up here by
Russell
School.
And so it's just the last payment for.
So we'll retain a certain percentage of the project until they have completed everything. So we will, at the end of the project, there'll be a punch list of correction items, and we'll hold that retainage until everything is complete.
Cool.
And then we will release retainage.
Very cool. And then my other question was, I see we've got one of the expenditures for the Indian Hills restroom and sidewalk program. Is Indian Hills, the park, good to go? Are there any lingering things now that we've got the sidewalk and restroom taken care of?
Well, the restroom installation is complete, playgrounds in. There is a larger master plan for that park, so there may be some other amenities that we may bring in over time. But certainly with the playground, restroom, and the other facilities we've developed on site, it certainly is usable, and we'll look at other amenities that could be added over time.
Love it. Any other questions about our major expenditures and or the disbursement report for March?
How many times a year do we make those deductibles to ICRIMP?
Two.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, and since it's been a topic of conversation with the Association of Idaho Cities and is a teaching moment for a rather packed room today, Bill, so ICRIMP is our insurance provider for the city and police department. I'm guessing that sector of the insured industry has not been exempt from some of the trending increases in insurance premiums. Is that right?
So ICRIMP is our liability and property insurance provider. We have seen 30% increases each of the last 2 years.
And it's not just,
30% per year, each year for the last 2 years. The first of those two increases, I think, was more directly related to some of our experience in claims. The second year of increases, pretty much all other cities were seeing similar 30% increases. And there's been a lot of volatility in the property insurance market. And as a whole, the country has gotten a little bit more litigious. And so there's also more litigation that ICRIMP is seeing. So we're hopeful that will taper off this year, but we won't receive those for probably about another month. Won't see our premium increase.
Okay.
So just keeping that in mind while we get ready for budget season. So
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the action before us is to accept the disbursement reports for March.
I move we accept.
I love it. Okay, and that is okay to go on consent. Is that right?
Yes.
Again, I'm out of practice. Yep. Okay, moving on to item number 3 with Sarah. Second quarter financial report for January 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2025 for fiscal year 2025. Sarah.
Yes. So looking at these, when you're running down the percentages, we try to be as close as we can, or we hope to be as close as we can to 50%. You'll see through here a few anomalies. The 100% transfers is always the transfers we do at the beginning of the budget year, typically for IS or fleet. There is an increase this time around in our operations versus our transfers, and that's because during our 2024 audit, it was determined that our internal service charges, the charges we receive to the general fund from water, sewer, streets, and some of them receive them as well, those should be in the charges for service itself versus us doing it through our transfers. And so we actually made that change in 25. And so while it's not budgeted, right now everything looks fine. It's trending around the 40% or a little bit higher. But as the year goes, you're going to notice operations is higher and transfers is lower. And that is the reason why. Within our capital, you'll see that that is currently looking very low, and that's because we're at the beginning of the capital season. But also, I pointed out at the fourth quarter fiscal year end that we have all of our fund balances that are in these totals. So even though it looks like, for instance, water construction is at 0.71%, that's because revenues for budgeted fund balance are not receipted or expensed, and so it doesn't show within the percentage.
Okay.
But come fourth quarter again, we're going to start showing those actuals, removing the fund balance and showing the actuals so that you can see to budget that we're actually much further along.
Okay.
They're just sitting low. So that brings our overall trend down to 24.83% for revenue and expenses at 20.89, but we actually are sitting closer to the 40% range right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And other than that, there's not much to point out unless you have questions.
Mine were going to be the outliers that you already explained, so I love it.
Oh, good.
Cool. Okay, how do we feel about recommending approval of the FY25? Gina says she's on board. Bryce, you on board?
Agreed.
Okay, and okay with consent. Beautiful. Cool. Thank you,
All right,
Sarah.
thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Item number 4, the Art Walk season finale alcohol use request in Entertainment District with Amanda Argona. Hello, Amanda.
Sorry, it always takes me a second
You're so
to
good.
get adjusted here. So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before you in your packets is a typical standard operating procedure for requesting alcohol use in the entertainment district for an event that the city itself hosts. Basically, we've done everything that we need to do. Legal's looked over, put a resolution forward for you guys to review and consider. Happy to talk about process. It is our own event. We still follow our own processes according to code. But yeah, happy to talk about any questions you may have. Megan is also present in the audience if you have specific Art Walk event questions itself. And if you have application questions, I'm your gal.
I have no questions.
I do not either. I'm just excited that this is occurring on the 26th as opposed to the third Thursday, because in years past, some of us are in Boise for the AIC annual conference. So I am stoked to partake in this.
Great.
In all the ways.
Great.
My only question is, are we going more or fewer vendors than we've done in years past?
For alcohol vendors, Megan, do you want to?
Idle curiosity, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we limit the beer and wine vendors to 5, and that's consistent with what's in the past. And we have so far this year 4 registered. So we have space for 1 more if anybody out there would like to sign up.
Beautiful.
Great.
I love it. So our proposed action in front of us is to recommend approval of the resolution allowing for the temporary suspension of the open container law within the event footprint of the Art Walk season finale for the duration of the event. How do you feel about that?
Strong.
Strong.
Rad.
And it
Cool.
has to go on regular, right?
No,
Or does it have to?
resolutions, these are normally on consent.
Resolution done. Okay, I'm okay with consent, and we can't wait to
Thank
see all the social media blitzes
Yeah.
and get the word out for this.
Ordinances
Yeah.
are on,
Right.
Thank you, Megan.
are on the regular. Okay.
Okay, and item 5, the Moscow Renaissance Fair alcohol use request in East City Park, also with Amanda.
Yeah, so again, Moscow Ren Fair, longstanding event in the community. This year will be held on Saturday, May 3rd and Sunday, May 4th in East City Park. Beer garden, because we don't have free range beer in our parks yet, unlike downtown. So the beer garden is estimated to be 40 feet by 20 feet in size with 1 licensed vendor, which I believe is going to be Tracy Shattuck this year. The alcoholic beverages are consumed between 12 and 8 on Saturday and 12 and 5 on Sunday. But in your packets, the resolution that legal has prepared and reviewed for you. And we also have 2 Renaissance Fair representatives here. Lou Ann Scott was unable to attend, but again, happy to answer any questions that you might have about this event.
Would love to see free range beer someday, but I also understand with an all ages and
Multiple
event,
entry points
which
is the
we-
biggest thing.
which we love that the Ren Fair continues to prioritize it being a celebration of spring and it being free access. I get the corral, the need to corral everybody.
I just love Ren Fair. I have lived through the winter at that point. Even if it snows on me on Ren Fair weekend. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So I don't have any questions either. I'm sorry. I should have a ton, but you
I
got
mean,
this
pretty
science.
standard.
Yes,
Yeah.
So-
not a lot of changes.
Yeah. And so
Okay, and
just
so-
excited for it.
I love it. So we have the proposed action is to recommend approval of the resolution allowing for the possession and consumption of alcoholic beverages in the designated beer garden, beer jail, as some may call it, in East City Park for Moscow Renaissance Fair. We on board with
Yes.
recommending
We are.
approval and consent agenda?
Consent is wonderful.
Ruby, okay. Thank you,
So
Amanda.
thank you,
you.
Amanda.
Thanks, Lori.
Amanda.
Thanks, David, for being here. Okay, item number 6 is the MeCore or MyCore. Someone's going to have to educate me on that. Purchase agreement for Barracuda XDR computer network and email security services. Are you Chris today?
I am Chris today.
Okay.
Sorry you
Oh.
couldn't make it.
MyCore, MeCore? Do we know?
MyCore,
Icor.
who is the vendor for Barracuda that we're purchasing the software through. So the city has identified a need for enhanced computer security software. This will provide essentially monitoring of every server and computer connected to the city's network. It will provide 24-hour, 7-day per week monitoring. And so they'll be in a call center monitoring any alarms come in the system that provides the opportunity for them to react and to limit propagation of any potential risk across the city's network. So this is before you because it wasn't an anticipated or budgeted expense when we developed the FY25 budget. We have identified some savings within the IS fund. It is roughly $35,000 a year for the next 3 years underneath the agreement. So it is guaranteed at a flat rate for the next 3 years, which will be good for us. And this really, as we've reviewed different alternatives available, was the best value for the services that we'd be receiving. So this is something that we would recommend to the council to approve.
My only comment was, while it may be an unexpected expense, it's still more expensive to remedy an outage or a compromised system. And I'm very excited to see Chris and the team focusing on cybersecurity for our city data and for our constituents. So
And you believe this is the most effective one too, not just a good
Correct.
deal?
Correct. Yeah, it utilizes the same agent that we recently have been allowed to utilize underneath another vendor. We've been very satisfied with its use, and so it provides that same agent, which is used by Fortune 500 companies, but also provides that 24-hour monitoring service at a very reasonable cost, which is what we're looking for. So,
Good, good.
Great.
my lingering question would just be, as far as savings in the IS fund, we do things on a shoestring budget. I'm hoping we're not having to deny folks from upgrading from a Windows 1997 computer and things like that. So
no.
if this is just aggregate savings over being intentional with our,
half of the savings is coming from the security program we had previously that we won't be renewing any
Gotcha.
longer. We pretty much
it's
Yeah.
not meeting our needs. Yeah.
had a little bit more of a consumer grade product.
okay.
And so we're moving up to an enterprise. So half the savings just shifting and not
Great.
renewing that service. And we have a couple other underutilized software applications that we won't be renewing as well.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
So in front of us, we have the proposed action to approve the agreement with MyCore Inc. for the purchase of Barracuda XDR licensing and security services.
Great.
Feel good? Sound good? Gorgeous. We like the 3-year guarantee. Does that need to go?
Would like to go on consent?
I'm comfortable with consent.
Yep.
Okay, gorgeous. Item number 7 with David Schott, we've got consideration of janitorial bid results. Welcome, David.
Hi, David.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, David.
All right, exciting times, janitorial bid results here.
I love this.
Hey, It is exciting.
The city published an invitation to bid for custodial services on all our buildings throughout the city on February 15th and February 22nd of this year. The bid opening took place on March 5th, at which time we got 5 bids for the various different modules that I'll explain here in a second. Just a little background. We grouped all our city buildings into 7 modules. We found, 2 or 3 cycles ago that we used to bid every building out in one bid, and we really wanted to encourage smaller companies. It was a lot for one company. And so we broke it out into different modules that made sense to us. There's 7 of them this year. Bidders can bid on one module, they can bid on multiple modules, or they could bid on all the modules. So the city would then enter into an agreement with the successful bidder for each module. So these are 3-year agreements, so October 1st of 2025, so a little ways out, but we tried to bid this before our budgets are due for fiscal year 26. So we have good numbers going into budget season, essentially. And this will carry us through September 30th of 2028. These are the modules. It's largely the same as 3 years ago, except for the areas I denoted in green, italics, and underlined. So module 4, we've got a lot happening out at the city shop. So custodial services will continue at the existing city shop until it's remodeled. That's anticipated to be remodeled and open October 1st of 26. And then we've got the new Parks and Fleet shop. That's a new addition, and that's projected at March 1st, 2026. So all that was within the bid package that went out. And then we have a separate agreement for custodial services for the parks restrooms this year, but we thought we'd roll that into this main bid package. So those are additions. Couple different ways to look at the bid analysis here. The bid tally is rather large. It's in your packet. But when I went through bid analysis, so the first chart up on the upper right there, our last 3 years, the year we're currently in, fiscal year 25, just over $470,000 for all the buildings for 3 years. When we look at the next 3-year period, we're at $533,000, which is about a 13% increase. But I would note in our last bidding cycle in 2022, 7 months of that was the police station. That wasn't all 12 months. And so that's why that number is a little bit lower. And then we're adding the new parks and facility or parks and fleet shop, and then the parks restrooms as well. So the one on the top right there, it's hard to really, it's more apples to oranges. And so with that 13% increase, when you go apples to apples, the chart on the bottom, I've listed the module, the current service, and the low bidder in this service. And you can see we're kind of all over the place, but generally it's a little better deal. So we did see a big uptick with module 4, but some of our other ones were much lower. So as far as percentages for each module. So that's going in from this year into fiscal year 26. If we look just monthly bills for the apples to apples for all the different buildings. So the bid results, GG Gutters, doing business as Creative Cleaning Connections, was the low bidder for module 1, 6, and 7 in the amount of $203,513.49. And again, this would be over a 3-year period. Evcar, doing business as Service Master Building Maintenance, was the low bidder for 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the amount of $329,568. For the same 3-year term of the agreement. Both of these cleaning services are currently working and have modules, and they're doing a good job. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think I've got one, maybe two. In the scope of like splitting these up via the modules, who do they all operate independently, or do they have kind of like at least one management structure? Like do you oversee them, or if they have questions about, I don't know, who do they contact within the city if something is awry in one of the buildings?
If it's more administrative contracts, that would be me.
Okay.
We made a switch a few years ago. If it's on the ground, if somebody has a complaint or services weren't done correctly, our facilities supervisor is now taking the lead on that and has done a great job, I think, he's in the buildings all the time.
Okay,
and so
cool.
it's really.
Thank you. Just because thinking about it, I like the concept of having the modules, but I could also see that having so much spread out maybe gets a little bit lost in the weeds sometimes, but just to make sure that there's still oversight and we're not being loose with what we're paying for is good to hear. So thanks.
My only question was going to be if we had worked with both since we had changed our facilities structure, and you answered that. So, and can I just, for my own clarity's sake, when they, for the modules that have added functions coming in, 4 and 7, they were bidding, and I think this bid tally, if I could read the small enough print, would show like the stepped increase when those things come on line. Is that right? Like, or did they choose to, how does that work when for 4 and 7, when 7
Right.
becomes a thing and 4 becomes a thing?
Councilor Lewis, great question. So we're basing this all on anticipated when the new shop's going to be done and when the old shop's going to be remodeled. And so we structured that in the bid schedule.
Okay.
And then they were provided square footages of the different buildings, new city shop. And so they bid off basically blueprints. And
Oh, yeah.
so,
Okay.
but yeah, it should transition really nice.
And we're gonna just keep hoping everything stays on track. Okay, gorgeous. Any other questions?
Are these local companies, are they coming up from the valley or from Pullman, or do you have any idea?
I think Creative Cleaning Connections is local. Service Masters based out of Lewiston, if I
Okay.
recall.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
So we've got a recommended action proposed action to recommend approval of the low bid from GG Gutters, doing business as Creative Cleaning Connections for 1, 6, and 7. And Evcar doing business as Service Master Building Maintenance for 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I need to read the numbers out?
No.
Great. Numbers on paper into words and brain and words out doesn't always work. How do we feel about accepting?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, recommending approval as presented?
Yes.
Definitely.
Gorgeous. And
It can be on consent. It's up to the council.
how are things looking down the?
For regular items, I think most everything else on the agenda except the last one probably will be on consent. So I think, given the scale of the contract,
I was just
award,
thinking
I think
it's a
fine to
large
put this on
amount.
regular.
I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with it being a large amount and bringing it to all of council. So
And especially to work through that slide with the differences in the
Yeah.
totals in case more counselors have questions. I think it'll be helpful.
Rugala agenda, please.
Yeah.
Okay, gorgeous.
Thank
Thank you, David. Okay, item number 8 with Mike Ray. We've got a lot line adjustment for 210 and 214 North Grant Street. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing, Mike?
So this is a lot line adjustment, 210, 214 North Grant Street. 2 properties highlighted in red, center of your screen. You can see Grant Street. It's Lena Whitmore there to the south on First Street. Cleveland and Blaine to the west and to the east. Looking at the zoning configuration of the area, it's R2, which is moderate density residential. Minimum lot size, 7,000 square feet. Minimum lot width is 60 feet. So setback requirements are 20 at the front and the rear, and then a side is 5. Both sides have to equal 15. So just a closer view of these properties. The northerly one's 8,555 square feet. Southerly is 8,410 square feet. So this would be the proposal about 8 feet back, do a shift in the property line to head north and then east and then south. And this is to accommodate a proposed carport garage addition on the property to the south. So this results in property to the south being 8,624 square feet and the property to the north being 8,339 square feet. So both of these properties consequently meet the minimum lot size requirement for the R2 zone, as well as all setback requirements. And this is the lot plan that the applicant has submitted, essentially showing the same thing that I showed on the previous slide. So with that, staff recommends approval of lot line adjustment request with no conditions, but I'd certainly be able to answer any questions you had on this.
My only question, I may be self-answering this. Is it normal to do like a non-straight line lot line adjustment? Like if citizens are coming to us asking for just a little jog to address the structure and setback?
I mean, we have seen some in the past. It's not entirely common, but, two neighbors working it out in order to be able to do a addition off the side of, one of the houses, certainly.
Yeah, and it makes sense if we're not trying to save as much of your square footage on your lot as you can. So that tracks. Also, I love all these little shoebox houses I love all these houses, but for the ones who don't have a garage or carport, I'm sure it's tricky. Okay, any other questions?
How long does this kind of process normally take if neighbors come to you all requesting like a lot size adjustment like this with the city? How long does it usually take for it now to arrive at Public Works in that process?
Whole process usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
So typically we need internal review, runs through engineering department just to make sure legal descriptions and exhibits are accurate. And so just depends on when the applicant submits everything and whether the materials are adequate enough to advance on. And so it was delayed, a week or two in this circumstance. But generally it's 3 to 4 weeks to Public Works and then on to council, full council, typically consent. So
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
I mean, I'm game with consent.
Me too.
And we're comfortable recommending approval as presented. Gorgeous. Okie dokie. And then item number 9 is also with Mike. Woodbury lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, block 5 lot line adjustment. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you again. So this affects the Woodbury First Edition subdivision. This is lots 1, 2, 3, 4 of block 5 lot line adjustment. So just some quick background. Woodbury First Edition is a subdivision and PUD received final approval by the council on October 17, 2022. Development includes 79 lots ranging from 3,823 to 16,321 square feet in size. It is the first phase of a master plan subdivision that has a new urbanist design. So currently Sloniker Drive as well as Woodbury and Picatee have been constructed into the subdivision. And various stages, approximately 15 single-family homes are currently under permitting or under various stage of construction. April 1st of this year, the applicant submitted a minor PUD amendment to consolidate 4 lots into 3 in order to accommodate larger house plans, and those are identified as estate lots. There's about 4 different styles of lots ranging in lot sizes and widths. Within the PUD, the estate lots are the larger lots. And then on April 9th, staff administratively approved the minor PUD amendment, and the applicant has subsequently requested a lot line adjustment in order to complete the process. And so just to refresh your memory here, this is outline of Woodbury. We had currently a little bit of an issue with county parcel data. That's why it's just showing a few lots there in an odd configuration. But essentially the outline is red. Sloniker Drive here to the south, Lanny Drive. This is where Mountain View makes the 90-degree turn to the east. So this is off of the county parcel data. So it gives you an idea of the platted subdivision, what's been constructed up to this point. So you can see Sloniker extended from the Blackwood addition here into the PUD subdivision. And then portions of Woodbury and Picatee have been constructed currently. And then you can see some houses currently being constructed on Picatee and Woodbury, and currently under construction on the east side of Sloniker as well in that location. So this is showing you the area of the impact. So these are the lots as you come into the subdivision from the Blackwood addition. So the intention here is transition from the larger lots on Sloniker into smaller lots into the core of the subdivision. And these are the largest lots within the Woodbury First Edition subdivision and PUD. So this shows you block 5. This is the present configuration. And this is the proposal. So you can see that consolidation just really making lot 1 and what's shown here is lot 3 fairly substantially larger. So part of this is just to accommodate typical house design for the estate lots, but also there's fairly substantial 2-to-1 slope here to the south as it enters this subdivision here to the south, and that shows kind of a building footprint. Through the minor PUD process, the applicant did submit house plans for these, at least one of these two lots, and we reviewed those for consistency with the architectural character of what was approved through the PUD process, and that was all consistent. So staff administratively approved that minor PUD request, and this is really just follow through with the lot line adjustment. And therefore, staff recommends approval of the lot line adjustment request with no conditions. I'd certainly try to answer any questions you had.
Go for it.
So have those lots been sold yet, or is this the developer coming to you asking for the readjustment?
It's the developer.
Okay.
The intention is, I think they're building custom homes on these properties, and I think they're in the process of selling it, and that's
Got
the
it.
impetus for the minor PUD amendment as well as the lot line adjustment in order to be able to facilitate that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Your discussion about the transition between Blackwood and into Woodbury. Am I using the terms correct? The names?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that makes good sense here, and that is in keeping with, my own concept of the transition between the two. You don't have the pictures of the houses, the house plans? That's my favorite part of these.
They're
Yes,
here in the
packet,
packet,
but I
yeah.
haven't, that was one thing. I was working on numerous presentations.
It's okay.
For today and tonight.
It's not the end of the world.
I was going to add those at the very end because I knew you were going to ask that question.
It's slow,
Sorry.
here.
Now
It's
I'm
slow
caught.
loading. I got
I'm
them
prepared here.
here. I have two questions, and I think it's more curiosity than anything. How many asks for changes have we seen from Woodbury? And I'm trying to understand from a PUD perspective if that's normal to see that many sort of, because I feel like it's been one or two that have changed the phasing in which the development would happen, which I understand given market conditions, but this is the first time I'm seeing a PUD kind of from start to finish. So just trying to understand.
This is the first requested change,
Okay.
other than the phasing, which essentially just divided up the number of phases more. But yeah, I mean, it's fairly common for other PUDs to go through, some minor or major amendments. The council doesn't see because those are administrative.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you would just go through. A lot of it is just trying to accommodate maybe setback requirements that may deviate a small amount, just to accommodate house plans and things like that. Things come up as development occurs, and so yeah, it's guaranteed there are going to be some changes for PUDs.
Yeah.
Applicants currently working on requesting a kind of a major PUD amendment to change some things around near the core of the PUD.
Okay.
So council will be seeing that in the next 2-3 months.
Okay. Yeah, I get a little bit sad when I see our applicant in the audience. I get a little sad when we talk about consolidating lots for larger lot sizes, but I appreciate there's a cover letter from Mr. Wentz that addresses also seeing a lot of requests for smaller and more affordable homes. So I think as long as we're all working towards the same goal of increased housing inventory, I won't lose too much sleep over it. Oh, here we go. I'm loading this for Gina so she can ogle the house plans. Bryce, do you have any other
It's a great
questions or
foundation.
procedural
I don't.
questions? Okay.
So thank you, Bill.
Oh, we get to shop for windows?
Oh, the windows. Oh,
It feels like
cool.
The Sims. We love it. Okay, sorry. Well, when it loads, I'll show you.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with the lot line
Okay.
adjustment because you guys have already kind of looked at it and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Administratively,
I'm good.
staff's approved it.
Okay, so we're comfortable with the proposed action to recommend approval of the lot line adjustment
Yes.
with no conditions.
yep.
Okay, gorgeous. And is that one okay on consent? Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it. Okay, item 10 with Bob Bovell. We've got request for waiver of Fatuna right-of-way improvements.
The tuna.
Make sure you read that parcel
Satuna.
RPM number.
Yeah, with
I'm just
parcel,
kidding.
while Bob's getting it ready. Parcel number 00000080106,
That's
AKA
great.
off of North Mountain
That was
View.
great. Yeah, that's great.
Wow. I'm glad you don't have to read that all the time.
Yeah, no kidding. So there's the full plan.
Oh, wow.
One second. Oh, yeah.
It'll be fun. Wow,
Nice work.
the ceilings are nice.
Yeah, I haven't been out there in a while. I'll have to remember how the access for the,
Yeah. Go and wander through.
yeah.
Bob.
Hi, Bob, welcome.
Sorry about the delay.
No stress.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to talk to you today about a waiver of frontage improvements on a property adjacent to the unimproved section of Thatuna Avenue. For anybody who is unfamiliar with what section this is, it is between the 90-degree bend in Mountain View Road, and it connects into the intersection of Thatuna and Ponderosa Drive.
This is the goat trail right now, right?
Yes, it's currently
fairly
used
steep.
as a pedestrian way and other recreational uses as well. This a little bit more background. This is the intersection of the unimproved Thatuna and Mountain View. And if you step and look over the edge, there's your goat trail that you.
I know that path. That's a little dogs there.
It's a great sledding hill.
Those would be the other recreational uses. And from the bottom looking up, just to kind of give a good idea of what the elevation difference is between the two improved road sections. This is a blurb out of the city code. This code basically describes the requirement to make street and utility improvements to any right-of-ways adjacent to a lot prior to being able to pull building permits. So in a lot of these infill projects, we need to look at whether or not frontage improvements and utilities have been done before issuing permits for some of these infill lots. This is a little bit more background information. The subject property is on the right, and on the left in bluish purple is another property that was the subject property for another waiver request in 2011 for the same road section.
Because they would have been subject to the Thatuna frontage. Okay, got it.
The part of what we need to look at when we're looking at these frontage improvements, utilities are also included as part of those frontage improvements. As you can see, there's a water line running through the Thatuna right-of-way. It wasn't deemed necessary to put a sanitary sewer line in there, and there likely would not be a need for storm drain in that section either. So when we go to talk about street frontage improvements, the first thing we need to do is determine what grade of road that road needs to be. So to do that, we look at our thoroughfare plan. This is the current thoroughfare plan from our current comp plan. And if we zoom in on it, we can see that the unimproved section of Thatuna is considered a proposed collector. So this is where I'm going to get a little technical.
I love it.
Back in 2011, when they were looking at the previous waiver request, our engineering department looked at a few potential road profiles that would be acceptable to connect a roadway from Ponderosa down at the bottom up to Mountain View at the top. The road profile in blue is a road profile that would be completely AASHTO compliant, which means all the lighting would be appropriate. The vertical and the sag vertical curve and the crest vertical curve are all within typical AASHTO standards. However, AASHTO does have some exceptions. Through further analysis you can potentially make a road that is steeper than 10%. 10% is kind of like the max that AASHTO recommends, but through a little bit more analysis, you can go to a steeper road section. The other thing that you can do is increase the amount of lighting along the roadway. One of the constraints of a sag vertical curve is people being able to see using their headlights. So they can't see far enough down the road. As you kind of drive up a road, your headlights don't shine up for you. And so that's the constraint on many sag vertical curves. So if you want to build a road that curves a little bit sharper, you can add additional lighting to eliminate that constraint. And so with those exemptions, the road profile that was looked into back in 2011 is that red line, and the green line is the existing ground. So this is the road section that we would be looking at building through the Tuna right away. This is a collector type roadway. It fits within the existing 60-foot right of way, with a few exceptions. If we were to reduce the green strip down to 5 feet, which our current standards do allow in difficult topography. And the roadway section is the exact same width and all that. But you do see that there are some retaining walls included in that. And if I go back one slide, you can see that this is the kind of the tallest section where a retaining wall would be required. And that is adjacent to the subject property. It would be towards the west end of the subject property.
So would it be, I'm like visually thinking of what we ended up doing with A Street reconstruction, sort of.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But the opposite where the road would be elevated from the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
You're looking at 14 feet elevation from existing ground.
Okay.
Of course, there could be cheaper solutions if we were to add a fill slope rather than retaining walls. That would be a possibility. On that downhill side, that would require almost an additional 30 feet of, if you use a 2-to-1 slope, an additional 30 feet of either right of way or easement. And that is what the proposed slope easement would need to look like. And as you can see, it would take up a significant portion of the subject property. So digging back into the 2011 waiver, I went in, updated some of the cost, or updated the cost estimate to reflect cost numbers that are more in line with what we see today as opposed to 2011. And in order to build the entire 500-foot section of the Tuna, it's estimated that it would take $1.5 million to do that. Because the subject property is only required to build the half that is adjacent to their property, and they only have to build the section that is, they're only required to build the section that is adjacent to their property along their frontage. The Tompkins share would be $255,000 per my updated estimate. And then the city would then, if we were to continue building the road, the city would be on the hook for paying that additional amount. I do want to add that Tompkins did include a cost estimate in the application material. And looking through the estimate, It looked like it was based largely on flatter ground. There wasn't any consideration for retaining walls. The original 2011 estimate also included some money to relocate the water line. If we were to, as I showed, we already have a water line through that right of way. If we were to build 14 feet of additional roadway on top of that water line, it would exceed AWWA standards.
Okay.
So we would have to bring that water line up with that road work. That's also included in this cost estimate that was not privy in the Tompkins estimate. Just for a little bit of fun, kind of looking at the cost difference and the cost estimates from 2011 to now, it was roughly $900,000 was the estimate in 2011 to build the road. Springer, who was the owner of the subject property at the time, would have had to take a share of $236,000, and and then the waiver request was approved back in 2011. Some additional information to talk about. Frontage improvements are still going to be required on Mountain View. The applicant, Allison, is in the audience as well. If you have any questions for her, she is not requesting a waiver for the Mountain View improvements. However, the city is currently in design for is currently designing a project that would do the frontage improvements along Mountain View, and that's scheduled for construction in 2026. So staff's recommending that you consider the request for the waiver of public improvements to the Tuna, and we recommend approval of that waiver request.
So I don't want to, Bill, tell me if I am not allowed to ask this because it's conflating issues, but it seems like what I'm picking up on is the heart of this issue is, do we as a council want to forever shelve the Tuna? If we were to approve the waiver, would that mean that we are directing the city to kind of continue to shelve the Tuna tie-in?
I mean, to continue to postpone it, I won't say shelve it. The right of way still, I mean, if you were vacating the right of way, then you would be saying that you no longer wish to have that road constructed through there. The right of way would remain. You're just saying you're not going to make this adjacent owner responsible for their portion of that development because of the unique characteristics of this particular situation and the extreme cost. And the city's not in a position to
It's not on
contribute
the
another
docket
1.3
right now.
million.
Yeah.
It's not in our CIP. So it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen or could not happen at some point in the future. But if it does, it would be solely at the city's cost to do so.
Okay. Could you go back to the right of way, the parcel overhead thingamajig?
The colored one?
Here.
That one?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so our little arrow, the 60-foot, is where the city maintains right of way.
Correct. Existing
If
right of way.
and when. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I think maybe this follows up on Haley's question. I might be also completely off. By granting this waiver, it does not commit us to that 1.5 million at this stage.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Because that number got very scary very quickly.
Yes.
It's a big number. It's one of those things I think I would encourage city to retain the right of way. We don't know what the future holds, what transportation needs might be. But I think as was the case in 2011, due to the unique topography and the significant cost of this section of roadway, the city didn't feel it was appropriate to make the adjacent owners pay that amount, especially when we were not ready, prepared, or have any plans for constructing that road in the near term.
Okay.
And so, it's not committing us to, granting the waiver. What we are committing ourselves to is that 200 and some odd thousand that is this owner's responsibility. that the city is essentially saying we will make up that difference in the future when and if we ever construct this road. So you're taking on additional obligations, just like it was done in 2011, that should we decide to build this roadway,
Yeah.
then the city will fully fund it and the adjacent owner will not have a responsibility. But we're not committing ourselves to anything at this point in time. But we are just assuming that additional cost, because if you waive it, there won't be the opportunity to come back and ask the owner to pay for those improvements.
That's the part I don't understand. This is the final waiver ever, amen.
Correct. Yeah, because it's the trigger is the building permit. That's the trigger for when public improvements are required. So once a permit is issued, if it's just a waiver with no other conditions or no other stipulations or requirements, then that's the one opportunity to require the improvements. So if you grant the waiver today, not today, but the council next week, then essentially the city's waiving its right to require the owner to construct those improvements at this time. And that is, again, that'd be the city's position. And then if the city wants to construct that roadway, then the city would have to bear the full cost.
Thank you.
It kind of feels like the decision in 2011 is definitely influencing, it makes absolutely no sense to put maybe 1/5 of the frontage improvements if and when they ever happen on a 1/5 owner of that frontage line, if the 2011 decision was made. Are we allowed to ask Allison? I'm kind of thinking the reason I'm going is there's already I get freaked out with blind driveways, and I know that we're going to do some frontage stuff, but I'm curious about the housing orientation. Are we able
And that's
to
really
ask?
a staff.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
We have standards for driveways, for site distance that will all be addressed at the
Love it.
stage of the
Okay.
building permit issuance.
And I love seeing infill. And it's such a goofy lot, so I'm very excited to know that there's someone with earthwork experience interested in taking it on. How are you feeling?
Good. When you were working through this, Bob, I did have a moment. I was like, this is the weeds of local government, and I like that.
Yeah.
I like the learning opportunity and the ability to ask questions, especially as it relates to this really unique piece of property in town. And having Bill explain kind of how that waiver process worked was very helpful. A little bit more. I'm okay with approving it. If we have the time, I'd like to hear what other counselors have to say. I don't know if I really want to put it on. I don't want to put it on.
No, this one should go on regular. agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm good with that. And that also gives, again, I'm feeling like it would be silly to not recommend approval of the waiver, but sorry, let me say that again. I'm comfortable recommending approval. I'm also happy to put it forward. We can put it forward with no recommendation from the three of us if we want to let it percolate. So up to.
I think I would be most comfortable with that.
Yeah.
The finality of everything makes me a little
I also want to make sure that our fellow council folks
have a chance.
and understand that we are putting it forth on the regular agenda, regula agenda, to make sure that everyone understands that we need everyone to pay attention to this one. So, okay, so we will put it on regular agenda with
No recommendation.
no
That's fine.
recommendation. Okay. Also, because it is fun to learn about the nuts and bolts of it, and I hope everyone enjoys learning about it. So, okay, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Appreciate
We
it.
look forward to you doing this again next week.
Yes. Any other things before we adjourn at 4:53-ish?
I
Okay,
think so.
groovy. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.